Hello folks, it's a hot September day, September 20th. Pretty damn hot. I've got a Husqvarna 125B leaf blower here. It's been sitting for a long time. A guy brought it to me because the primer bulb was pretty much completely deteriorated to nothing. So I can imagine that also the carburetor on the inside has a lot of shit in it that needs to be cleaned out. The fuel lines and all that are going to have to be replaced. But this video right here, I'm going to show you how to get to the carburetor. I'm just going to take the body apart for you and do that step. And then I will post another video on how to go through this carburetor and clean it out and get it back into running condition. So anyways, let's proceed with getting this off. First thing I do is, it's got the long nozzle on the front. I'm going to get that out of your way because it's a pain in the ass to work with, plus it has to come off anyway. I use the Torx T25 for all these screws. It pretty much takes care of every fastener on this machine. By the way, these machines are really popular. You can buy them cheap. They're made cheap, but overall they're pretty good little machines. Just don't let them sit around. So many people let their machines sit around and get dry rot, and the fuel gets gummed up inside the carburetors, and then they don't work for them anymore, and they end up spending more money on them than they're worth. Luckily, I'm a good guy and I don't charge them a lot to do this. Anyways, so I got the lower nut off of this output tube. I'm going to go ahead and take this upper screw out of here. Now, some of these screws are different lengths. So I have 3 different magnets and 3 different containers. I use magnets like this one here. I got bigger ones that have clamps on them. I have medium-sized ones, and I also have containers. So I keep track of all of my screws and where they come from by length. So I'm going to start sticking all these ones to this small magnet. Pretty smart idea. This is the boring part. Taking out all the fasteners. So far, these screws are all the same length. Okay, here's your tube. I'm not going to get up and widen the angle on my camera, but there's your output tube. It's off. I got ahead of myself, by the way, by taking those fasteners out. Now we'll continue with the fasteners. Another one here. Same length. The most difficult part of these little machines is this throttle linkage up at the top. You have to be very careful about how you take it apart. Watch what you're doing so that you know how to put it back together. The rest of it's pretty simple, really. Okay, there's all of the fasteners out of this side. Okay, so what we'll do is flip it around. I've already pulled the plug out of it. You don't need to do that, but I did because I was using it on something else yesterday. I shouldn't have flipped that around yet because I can pull it off. Okay, there it is. It's just, you know, if there's any tension on that thing, just do a little bit of wobbling it around and it should come off. If it doesn't, then there's something wrong. Anyways, there's that cover. Okay, set that aside. Okay, now we're going to start on this side here. Make sure my camera view is good. Now I'm going to take these fasteners on this side where the pull cord is and put them on a different magnet so I don't lose track of any of them, of where they go. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the starter cord off of here. It's all one assembly. Now I know for a fact that these fasteners right here are different than the rest, so I'm going to keep them separate from everything else. Well, I can smell the old gas on this thing, and I don't like that smell. It stays on your hands for 3 days. See, now when I told you that I know for a fact that these fasteners that are coming off of this starter are different than the rest, it's because these have a finer thread than the body screws. They're coarse, these are fine. You have to make sure you don't get those mixed up, or you're just going to screw things up. So I'm gonna put these 4 screws, of course there's only 2 in my hand, but all 4 of these on a third magnet. Okay, there's your pull starter, one complete assembly. When you take this apart, do an inspection on it, make sure that this plastic isn't wore out or anything like that. These last a long time, but just inspect it anyway before you put it back together. Okay, and like I said, these 4, these are what make contact with that flywheel to start this motor. This one's in fantastic shape. Set that aside. They have one more fastener right up here, and I think we're just about ready to take this side off. Yep, there we go. Did you see how easy that came off? Okay, there's that side cover. Now here is what I mentioned to you before. When you pull that cover off that I just pulled off, pull it off slower. The reason I did it is because I've done so many of these I can do them with my eyes closed. The reason I tell you to do it slower is so that you don't pull one of these pieces of linkage off. Okay, this piece of metal up here is a ground, okay, to keep you safe from getting shocked by the machine. It attaches to the on-off switch, the kill switch. This piece of linkage right here is what runs your throttle, as you can see. Okay, try to get my hands out of the way and show you. Pull the throttle, pushes that down, and pushes the throttle on the carburetor. Now, I could stop right here and work on this carburetor, but I just wanted to show you how to do all of it, since I set up for this video anyway. I'm going to leave that linkage there for now. I'm going to get this air cleaner off. Well, that hasn't been touched in a while. Of course, I've seen worse. Okay, now, oh, by the way, this piece right here doesn't have any fasteners on it. Okay, this just, it's your exhaust cover. So once you take these two side covers off, this will just come out for you. Very simply. The mistake that I've made in the past is I forgot to put this sucker in before I put the side covers on. So when you reassemble this machine, this is the first part that goes on. If you don't do that, you're going to end up taking it apart again and spending another 10-15 minutes that you don't need to spend. Set it aside. Okay, now we're going to start with a linkage. First of all, I'm going to take this grounding bar out of here. I'm not going to stick this stuff on a magnet. I'm going to just throw it in a little container. I use little old cake pans and stuff like that to put my parts in. Okay, we'll take the throttle switch off. And now I'm going to go ahead and keep this attached. Okay, that way I know how it goes back together, and it's also free to let you know to do the same thing. See, now there's an offset right here that attaches to the throttle of your carburetor. Basically all you do, I know my camera work here is hard with my hands being in the way, but there's a little hole in the top of that throttle. Before you take this apart, look at it, and then you just slip it in, and it basically will work itself right in the way it's supposed to. And then you put your throttle lever back on. Okay, so anyhow, like I said, I take it off and I keep this attached. Don't get any pliers out and start bending anything on these ever. Okay, we're going to put that in the container. Okay, now I'll go ahead and disassemble this, and that will be the end of the video. I need to grab another tool here real quick that I forgot to get. Okay, that inside of here, let me make sure I check this before I tell you. There's two nuts that you need to take off. I thought they were a 10mm, but they're an 8mm. I should have known that. Sitting here bragging about doing these with my eyes closed. Anyhow, okay, so I've got my 8mm nut driver. I'm going to go ahead and twist off both of the nuts. Well, that one came out pretty easy. I'm just going to throw that into the container with the throttle switch and the linkage. Usually these nuts fall down in here and you have to get a pen magnet to get them out. But I'm getting lucky today. There we go. Okay, I'm going to keep this attached and tell you one more thing. this right here is your choke for cold start. Now, right now, it's in the full-on position, but in order to get this air cleaner housing off that holds this primer bulb that I'm going to replace, okay, you need to move it all the way to the left, and hopefully in this camera you can see why, because there's this bigger opening in the end of it, and that's the only way that that's going to come off of there, because if you move that to where this goes past that. Hopefully you've seen that. It was pretty quick, but there you are. Okay, now also memorize your primer bulb lines, where they're attached, okay? This line is on the bottom, as you're looking at the air cleaner housing. It's on the bottom of the primer bulb, and it goes down to the fuel tank. The other line that's on top of the primer bulb, as you're looking at it in place, goes to the carburetor. And if you don't know this primer bulb, when you push on it, it pushes air pressure inside of your fuel tank, and then in turn it pushes it back out to your carburetor. Once you get the engine started, you don't have to do that. It's just for a cold start. So I like to do these with needle nose. I like to give them a little twist before I take them off. Sometimes you'll break them, and it's just easier. They can be a pain in the ass, so if you just twist them very carefully, don't break the nozzles on the primer bulb. Even though I'm replacing this primer bulb, you might be working on one with a good primer bulb. Okay, there's the top one. It's still attached to the carburetor. Try to get you a camera view here. Okay, that one's twisted. Okay, she's off. There's your air cleaning housing. And there, not in the camera, is your bad primer bulb. It's just completely shot. It's like an old paper sack. Okay, so there you go. That's how you pull this little leaf blower apart so that you can access everything on this little tiny engine. It's just tiny. But now I have access to my spark plug coil, my flywheel, my exhaust, my carburetor, my fuel tank. I'm going to go ahead and leave you here with this. That showed you how to get access to all the things you need to get to. And I'm going to shut the camera off, and I'm going to make a video of rebuilding this carburetor on the bench. I'm not going to video taking it off of here. It's just 2 bolts to take it off. And that's it. Okay, and the ones that nuts. And the ones that I took off are the ones you've seen. They're the nuts that hold this housing on. They also hold the carburetor on. In fact, I'll just go ahead and show them. Just give her a little wiggle. See, I make it sound easy, but it's not. Yeah, this one's being pretty tough, because it's been on there a while, so we'll get in there with some needle nose. There we go. Now I grabbed that in a safe place so I wouldn't ruin anything. But there you go. That's how you get your carburetor off. Alright folks, I've got an allergy coming on, so I'm going to sign off, and be sure to watch my video of how to go through this carburetor, clean it up, rebuild it to get this little machine going again. Thanks, and click on my link, Bluffdale Garage, on Facebook. Give me a like if you like this video. I'd really appreciate it. And have a good day.